The unspoken love of youth. In the tender folds of memory, where time blurs into a golden haze, there lies a village called Soul Haven, its earth scorched by a relentless sun that seemed to burn stories into the very dust. The light was fierce, unyielding, painting the fields in hues of amber and gold, yet in its harsh embrace, the daughters of Soul Haven bloomed like wildflowers, defiant and radiant. Among them was Clara, a girl whose presence was a quiet rebellion against the heat, a cool, fleeting breeze that stirred the heart. My best friend, Rowan, and I, tethered by a brotherhood forged in the reckless days of childhood, roamed those sunlit paths like untamed colts, our dreams galloping far beyond the horizon of our small world. We were young, brash, our hearts pounding with the rhythm of possibility, yet when it came to matters of love, we stumbled, our words faltering like candles in a storm. Clara was our constant, the melody woven into the tapestry of our youth. Her laughter rang like chimes through the dusty lanes, her eyes holding secrets we were too young to unravel. As the years unfolded, her beauty deepened, touched by the seasons as if nature itself conspired to perfect her. Spring draped her in vibrant greens, summer kissed her cheeks with a rosy flush, autumn crowned her with golden light, and winter cloaked her in an ethereal stillness. Her hair, silken and dark, fell like a river over her slender shoulders, framing a face that seemed to glow with an inner light. On quiet evenings, when she walked to church in her flowing silk dress, her steps were soft, deliberate, as if the earth itself paused to admire her grace. I would watch her from a distance, my heart catching on the sight, and wonder how someone could embody both the fragility of a petal and the strength of the roots beneath. There was something unspoken among us three, a delicate thread of feeling that shimmered like heat rising from the earth. It was fragile, electric, a current that pulsed beneath our laughter and shared silences. I felt it most keenly in the quiet moments, when Clara's gaze lingered a second too long, or when Rowan's voice softened as he spoke her name. One evening, as the sky burned crimson and the cicadas sang their mournful hymn, Rowan pulled me aside, his voice low, trembling with a weight I hadn't heard before. "I've fallen for Clara," he said, his words heavy with a truth that seemed to anchor him to the earth. I swallowed, my throat tight. "What do you mean?" I asked, though my heart already knew, its rhythm unsteady. "I love her," he said, his eyes fierce with conviction, yet shadowed by fear. "Love?" The word was a sacred thing, too vast for our untested hearts, a star too distant to touch. His confession struck me like a stone, stirring a storm within, a whirl of emotions I couldn't name. My pulse quickened, and I turned away, pretending to study the horizon, as if the fading light could steady the chaos inside me. I wanted to ask him how it felt, this love he claimed, but the words caught in my throat, tangled in a truth I wasn't ready to face. That Sunday, after the church bells fell silent, the three of us wandered to Miss Lila's dessert shop, where the air was thick with the sweet scent of red bean soup and jasmine tea. The wooden benches creaked under us, and Clara's laughter bubbled like a stream, but my chest felt tight, heavy with something unspoken. Barely 5 minutes in, I mumbled an excuse, something about needing to help my mother, and slipped out, leaving Rowan and Clara alone. The door swung shut behind me, and I stood in the fading light, the weight of my sacrifice pressing against my ribs. I wanted Rowan to have his moment, to bridge the gap between his heart and hers, but as I walked away, the dust kicking up beneath my feet, I felt a pang I couldn't name, a longing that wasn't just for friendship. The next day, I found Rowan by the old oak near the river, his face alight with nervous energy. "So?" I pressed, my voice lighter than I felt. "Did you tell her?" He ducked his head, sheepish. "I tried, James." My tongue got all knotted up. I was too nervous. "But next time, I swear I'll say it." I clapped his shoulder, forcing a grin. "You'll get there, Rowan." But inside, I was wrestling with a truth I buried deep. I will not love my friend's beloved. It became a mantra, a vow to silence the stirrings in my heart, to keep our brotherhood unbroken. Yet every time Clara's name passed between us, it was as if a stone dropped into the still waters of my soul, sending ripples I couldn't ignore. When that next time came, Rowan found his courage. He told me later, his voice alive with wonder, how he'd poured his heart out to Clara under the banyan tree, the stars bearing witness. I listened, nodding absently, my mind caught in a tangle of relief and quiet ache. I pictured her face, the way her eyes must have softened, and felt a hollow space grow within me. I told myself it was enough to see them happy, to be the steady friend who held the edges of their story together. But in the quiet of my room that night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why my heart felt like it was carrying a weight it couldn't name. Clara, at 18, was a vision that turned heads and tightened the vigilance of her parents. Whenever Rowan and I visited, their eyes followed us, sharp and discerning, lingering longer on Rowan. Perhaps it was my status as an only son, or the quiet steadiness I wore like a second skin, but I was the one they trusted. Rowan, with his restless spirit and easy grin, was barred from their home, forced to wait at the crossroads during their stolen moments. I became the messenger, the one who knocked on their door and asked, with practiced politeness, if Clara could join us. Be back early, I'd tease them, flashing a grin as I handed Clara over to Rowan's eager gaze. I've got to escort her home, you know. I'd turn away, hands shoved deep in my pockets, and walk Salhaven's, winding dirt paths alone. The moonlight spilled through the windows of the houses, casting fleeting shadows that danced across my path. The air was alive with the scent of fresh earth and wild grass, a fragrance that sank into my bones, filling my lungs with the essence of home. My father's words echoed in my mind, steady and unyielding, a man must build a name, a future, before he takes a wife. I thought of Rowan and Clara, their hands brushing as they walked, and something deeper stirred, a longing I pushed down, burying it beneath duty and loyalty. But there were moments when the weight of it slipped through. When Clara was sad, she sought me out, her tears falling like soft rain as we sat by the riverbank. I'd listen, silent, watching the way her shoulders trembled, the way her voice broke on the edges of her sorrow. My heart ached to reach out, to wipe the tears from her cheeks, but I held back, anchoring myself to the role of friend. Yet in those moments, as the river murmured and the stars blinked above, I felt a tenderness that threatened to unravel me. I wondered if she saw it, if she felt the same unspoken pull, but I never dared ask. Then came the day the draft notice arrived, a cold summons that pulled Rowan and me from Salhaven's embrace. The night before we left, we went to Clara's house, the air heavy with the weight of farewell. Rowan waited at the crossroads, his silhouette pacing under the dim glow of a street lamp, while I stepped onto her porch, greeting her parents as they sat in the cool evening air. "Good evening, sir, ma'am," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. "Evening, James," her father replied, his eyes kind but searching. "Just arrived?" "Sit a while," her mother added, her voice warm as she called into the house, "Clara. Your friend's here." I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. "May I take Clara for some dessert?" Her father nodded. "Go, but be back soon." Clara appeared, radiant in a lilac dress that hugged her frame, its heart-shaped neckline and slit sides framing her like a painting. A hint of lipstick brightened her lips, and I caught myself staring, my breath hitching. "She's Rowan's," I reminded myself, forcing my gaze away. I winked at her, a playful gesture to mask the storm within, and led her out. From the distance, Rowan paced, his impatience a living thing. "Don't stay out too late, you two," I called, my voice light but my heart heavy. I knew that night was their goodbye. I watched them walk hand in hand, disappearing down a quiet lane, their shadows merging under the moonlight. Turning away, I wandered Salhaven's nameless paths, each step a tether to the place I loved. The air was thick with the scent of earth and memory, and I let it fill me, as if I could carry Salhaven with me into the unknown. At a roadside cafe, I ordered an iced coffee, its bitterness mirroring the ache in my chest. Youth felt fleeting, our futures uncertain, like grains of sand slipping through my fingers. I sat there, watching the stars emerge, and wondered what lay ahead for us three, bound by love and loyalty yet pulled apart by time. After 9, I headed to our meeting point, pacing to fend off the mosquitoes that hummed in the dark. At 9:30, my heart raced with worry, until their silhouettes appeared, illuminated by the faint light of a stranger's window. I exhaled, relief flooding me. "You had me worried," I said, my voice softer than I meant. Clara laughed, her voice like a bell. "Right on time. Good night, James." Her hand brushed mine, a fleeting spark that sent a jolt through me. I pulled back, startled by the warmth it stirred. "Good night," I murmured, turning away to hide the flush creeping up my neck. In the army, letters from Clara were rare treasures, read together in the dim light of our barracks. Each word was a thread connecting us to Salhaven, to her. But as the months stretched into years, the letters grew scarce, and then came the one that changed everything, a pink invitation tucked inside, announcing Clara's marriage. Rowan stopped eating for 2 days, his grief a silent storm. I forced a bitter smile, my voice hollow. "Of course. Years in the service, returning with nothing, how could we marry?" In the quiet evenings, I'd pull out my guitar, my fingers tracing the strings as I sang. If love letters fail to capture her heart, I'll paint her lilac dress with ink. My voice carried the weight of loss, each note a lament for what might have been. Rowan mourned Clara, his heart tethered to her memory, while I mourned the lilac dress, the fleeting moments when I dared to dream. On reclamation missions, we worked under hills dotted with wild purple flowers, their petals vibrant against the green. I pressed them into letters for Clara, each one a silent question about fidelity, about whether love could endure the weight of time. At night, in our camp, we lay under a sky ablaze with stars. I turned to Rowan, my voice barely above a whisper. "That night you said goodbye to Clara, did you kiss her?" He sat up, his eyes wide, stunned into silence. I swallowed a sigh, my heart heavy for him, for us both. My fingers lingered on my guitar, the notes fading into the night like unspoken truths. After our discharge, we returned to Soul Haven, our skin bronzed by the sun, our eyes carrying the weight of years. The paths we once roamed felt distant, as if they belonged to another life. One day, Rowan came to me, his voice quiet but resolute. "I'm leaving, James. Going to seek my fortune elsewhere." I stared at the yard, where my mother's sliced yams danced under the sun's glare on a woven mat. The words stuck in my throat, but I nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Life was a train, each farewell a station that left a bruise on my heart. I hated that feeling, the way it clung like damp earth. I'd known heartbreak too, but now I had a home, a job, a life carved from effort. My days were full, yet an emptiness lingered, a shadow that followed me. On quiet nights, I stood on my balcony, lighting a cigarette, not out of addiction, but for the ritual of it. I'd inhale deeply, exhaling rings of smoke that curled and dissolved into the night, carrying fragments of memory with them. Soul Haven was my heart's home, yet I no longer belonged there. I was a wanderer, carrying its dust in my veins. Each lunar new year, the urge to return grew fierce, pulling me back to the paths where three friends had laughed, loved, and lost. I craved the burn of rice wine, its warmth just enough to blur the edges of sobriety, letting the ache of youth flood my senses. In those moments, I saw Clara's lilac dress, Rowan's hopeful grin, and the boy I used to be, all woven into the tapestry of Soul Haven, a story of unspoken love, of loyalty, and of the quiet pain that lingers long after youth has faded.